The Battle of Gio, fought on February 3, 1509, off the coast of Gio in western India, stands as a significant event in the history of the Indian Ocean, marking a decisive moment in the struggle for control over the lucrative spice trade routes. This naval battle was not just a clash of fleets, but also a confrontation of civilizations, cultures, and the nascent forces of European imperialism against established Asian powers. The context for the Battle of Gio lies in the age of exploration, during which European powers sought to find direct sea routes to Asia to bypass the land-based trade networks controlled by Muslim and Venetian intermediaries. The Portuguese, under King Manuel I, were particularly aggressive in their efforts to establish a maritime empire. Vasco da Gama's successful voyage to India in 1498 opened the floodgates for Portuguese expansion into the Indian Ocean. The Portuguese aimed to dominate the spice trade by establishing fortified bases along the Indian coast and disrupting Muslim maritime trade. The immediate precursor to the Battle of Gio was the Portuguese capture of the strategic port of Goa in 1510. However, the control of Gio, a key port on the Kathiawar Peninsula in Gujarat, became crucial for the Portuguese to secure their dominance. Gio was a bustling commercial hub, heavily fortified and strategically positioned. It was also under the influence of the Sultan of Gujarat, Mahmud Begada, who was determined to resist Portuguese encroachments. The Sultan sought the help of powerful allies, including the Ottoman Empire, the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, the Zamrin of Calicut, and the Sultan of Bijapur. In late 1508, a combined fleet of the Mamluks, Gujarat Sultanate, and other allies, under the command of the Mamluk Admiral Amir Hussein al-Kurdi, inflicted a significant defeat on the Portuguese at the Battle of Chaul. This defeat galvanized the Portuguese to muster a more formidable force to avenge their losses and secure their position. King Manuel I appointed Francisco de Almeida, the first viceroy of Portuguese India, to lead this expedition. Almeida had personal reasons to seek revenge as his son, Lourenço de Almeida, had been killed in the Battle of Chaul. The Portuguese fleet, under Almeida, consisted of about 23 ships, equipped with advanced artillery and manned by experienced sailors and soldiers. In contrast, the Allied fleet, although larger in number with around 100 ships, was composed of diverse contingents with varied levels of coordination and technological sophistication. The Portuguese also had superior naval tactics, which included the use of heavily armed carracks and galleons, designed for both long voyages and naval combat. On February 3, 1509, the two fleets met off the coast of Gio. The battle was fierce and chaotic, with both sides deploying their full might. The Portuguese, leveraging their superior firepower and naval tactics, managed to outmaneuver and overpower the Allied fleet. The carracks and galleons of the Portuguese unleashed devastating broadsides, causing significant damage to the lighter and less heavily armed ships of the Allies. The Portuguese also employed aggressive boarding actions, where heavily armed soldiers would storm enemy vessels, engaging in brutal close-quarters combat. One of the key factors in the Portuguese victory was their mastery of naval artillery. The Portuguese ships were equipped with cannons that could fire powerful volleys, wreaking havoc on the less technologically advanced ships of the Allied fleet. The Portuguese gunners were well-trained and disciplined, maintaining a relentless barrage that shattered the morale of their adversaries. The Allied fleet, although larger, was composed of ships that were primarily designed for trade rather than warfare, and they struggled to withstand the onslaught. The battle raged for several hours, with the waters around Gio turning red with blood. The Portuguese managed to capture or sink a significant portion of the Allied fleet, dealing a crippling blow to the naval power of the Mamluks and their allies. Admiral Amir Hussein al-Kurdi and many of his men were killed, while others were captured or drowned in the carnage. The Portuguese also managed to capture a large amount of valuable cargo, including spices, silk, and other goods, further enriching their coffers. The aftermath of the Battle of Gio had far-reaching consequences for the region and beyond. For the Portuguese, the victory solidified their position as the dominant naval power in the Indian Ocean. It allowed them to establish a network of fortified bases along the coast of India, from which they could control and tax the spice trade. The Portuguese established a fortress in Gio, which became a crucial part of their maritime empire. The victory also deterred other European powers from challenging Portuguese dominance in the region for several decades. For the defeated powers, the battle marked a significant loss of influence and prestige. The Mamluk Sultanate, already weakened by internal strife and external pressures, never fully recovered from the defeat. The Sultan of Gujarat, although still powerful, had to accept the presence of the Portuguese and their dominance over the seas. The Ottoman Empire, which had provided support to the Mamluks, saw its ambitions in the Indian Ocean checked by the Portuguese naval power. The Battle of Jio also had broader implications for global trade and geopolitics. The Portuguese control over the spice trade routes allowed them to bypass the traditional land routes controlled by Muslim powers and the Venetians, leading to a shift in the balance of trade. European markets were flooded with spices, silk, and other exotic goods, leading to increased wealth and the funding of further exploratory and colonial ventures. In historical memory, the Battle of Jio is often overshadowed by other naval engagements and conquests. However, its significance in the establishment of European colonial dominance in Asia cannot be overstated. The battle was a clear demonstration of the technological and tactical advantages that European powers could wield, and it set the stage for centuries of colonial exploitation and control over the Indian Ocean and its trade networks. The legacy of the Battle of Jio can still be seen today in the remnants of Portuguese fortifications in Jio and other parts of India. These structures stand as silent witnesses to the fierce battles and complex interactions that shaped the early modern world. The battle also serves as a reminder of the far-reaching impacts of European imperialism and the enduring consequences of these historical events on the cultures and societies of the region.